Today we're going to be playing with dough. So we're going to make some salt dough ornaments. If you've never made them before, they're super easy and a lot of fun, and I'm about to show you how. Happy Whimsical Wednesday! Welcome to The Real Ray. If you are new here, I am Ray. I am a cosmetologist, beautician, whatever you want to call me, that's me. But today is not for beauty, today is for whimsy. Sometimes those coexist, but not today. Today we are playing in my kitchen. All right, so you're gonna need a couple things to get started. You're gonna need some all-purpose flour. You can have bleached or unbleached. I would just roll with some like cheap bleach though, so the whiter the better for this. And then some basic table salt, nothing fancy because you're gonna be using a lot of it, and then warm water. If you have some cookie cutters available, go ahead and get those out. If you're just needing an excuse to buy some cookie cutters, go get you some fun cookie cutters. But you can also use things you already have, like cups and jars, and you can just carve out your own shapes if that's what you're into. All right, so to get started, let's go ahead and get the oven preheating. It'll need to be on 300 degrees. Always make sure and check your oven before you turn it on. I have halved this recipe, and I'm gonna post a link to the website I used to get the recipe in the description below, so check that out. 2 cups of flour, half a cup of basic salt, and then just some like warm tap water. And just pour a little bit of it in and then start stirring it. So once it gets too hard for you to like stir with your spatula, then you'll just, dig in and get dirty with it and knead it with your hands. So it's kind of about where we're at now. The salt is important for preservation purposes, so it will help it from getting like as moldy as quickly. But we're also going to use like a sealant or something at the end, so that helps too. Okay, I'm actually gonna transfer this over to my parchment paper. All right, so once you get your dough all nice and squishy, put it on your parchment paper, not wax paper. You don't need to put wax paper in the oven, I don't think. All right, so then go ahead and like smush another piece on top of it and get your rolling pin out. So earlier when I did this, the trouble I was having is that my like parchment paper was moving all over. So my solution to this is to just kind of like turn it and put a little over the counter so you're halfway leaning on it. Maybe you don't have this problem, but if you do, that's my solution. So kind of just like smush it down a little bit and then start to roll it. You want to get it, so for the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is to do animal paw prints, or how to do, like kiddo little hand prints. Or if you want to do your own hand print, you can do that too. But for that, they need to be a little bit thicker, so maybe like 1/2 inch or a little bit less. Probably less than that, like 1/4 inch. Because for the shapes, you want them to be about 1/8 of an inch. The next thing that you're going to want to do is go find your little fur babies or your children and stick their hand or their paw in it. All right, so now that we have the hand prints on there, or paw prints in this case, then I'm going to take a glass, according to how big they are, and kind of like center it and cut it out like you would for like a cookie cutter. I kind of put their like initials on it since we have a whole zoo here, so that I'll know who is who. You are also going to want to make sure and have either like a straw or a toothpick and put a hole somewhere in it so that you can put a ribbon through it or a light little hook. Then instead of pulling the cut pieces off, you'll want to pull the remainder from around it. If you have any pieces that are like this, where there's just some extra, just go ahead and carefully cut it off. I'm using some like clay carving tools that I asked for a couple Christmases ago that I barely use, so I'm excited to have an excuse to use them. We are going to go ahead and put these friends in the oven because they're going to need to cook a little bit longer, and cooking wise, these need to cook somewhere between like, I don't know, 40 minutes to like an hour 15. It depends on how well your oven heats and how thick your dough is. So you'll just want to check them, and when they're hard, they're done. They can also get a little bit brown. No big deal. More done is better than less done in this scenario because you're not eating them. So we have the leftover dough from round one, and we're gonna sandwich it again in between the parchment paper pieces. Say that a couple of times fast. Parchment paper pieces. So I'm gonna roll this out to about an 1/8 of an inch thick, and then use my cookie cutters. Okay, so now that we have all of our shapes out, we're gonna do the same thing where we go through and add a hole somewhere with our straw. And you can either, let's do this little hand for this one. You can either leave them like this, or you can go through like I'm gonna do and add some texture. You can add texture using anything from the kitchen. I'm gonna keep using my clay carving tools because I have them, but like a fork or knife or really anything will work perfectly, or you can use your toothpick. All right, so we are gonna put these in the oven for about an hour or so, just until they're like good and hard and all the way cooked. All right, so once they're done, you can just leave them as is if you like that, or you can do like we're gonna do and spray paint them white before you paint them. Also make sure and let your dough cool completely before doing anything to them. We have our freshly spray painted ornaments. These actually might need a few more minutes of dry time before it's time to paint them. But what I'm gonna do with mine is get my acrylic paint out and paint on them. You can use any type of paint though. I just like acrylic paint, and I've got a bunch of options in there, but like water paint, I feel like oil paint would be fine, and puffy paint would work too. Let me know how you choose to decorate yours, and if you post a picture of them on Instagram, tag me in it so I can see. All right, y'all, let's get to painting. All right, y'all, what kind of ornaments are you gonna be making this season? Let me know in the comments below. Also, don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Be sure and be on the lookout for next week's Whimsical Wednesday, because we're gonna be upcycling some DIY ornaments. Thanks again for watching. It's the Real Ray. Bye.